What's up, y'all? This is the first attic thought. You're probably thinking, what the heck is an attic thought? Well, I'm going to tell you. But first, to understand what an attic thought is, you got to understand, like, yo, Dizzle, what's the deal with the attic? Well, I'm in my attic right now. This is significant. About a year and a half ago, I decided to cut a hole in the roof of our house to convert our attic into an office so that I could have a secluded place to think deep thoughts. I get this idea from Cal Newport's book, Deep Work, where in the opening pages, he gives the example of psychologist Carl Jung and his Bollingen Tower. Now, Carl Jung was a clinical psychologist who worked one-on-one with patients during the week, but he built this stone tower in the woods of Bollingen where he could escape to on long weekends to ultimately create or think through an entirely new school of thought within the world of psychology that he ended up calling analytical psychology, that went completely against the king of psychology, Sigmund Freud. Now, Cal Newport in his book argues that it was this Bollingen Tower and these secluded retreats where he went there to think deep thoughts that ultimately allowed Jung to create this entirely new school of thought. And this is where I get my idea of the tower, so this attic. Even at my first house, I decided in mid-COVID to spend 6 weeks building an external office behind our house where I had to literally walk through our backyard about 100 yards, 50 yards to get to my office. And I even called it the tower in commemoration of Jung and this idea of deep work. And I was so convinced of my tower theory that when we moved from that house into our current house about 3.5 years ago, I immediately started thinking, like, how can I recreate my tower? I didn't want to just build an external office in the backyard again. There wasn't a really good spot for it. And then I realized we have a ton of space in our attic, but you couldn't really stand up in our attic, which hence came the cutting out of the hole in the roof idea so that I could get some natural sunlight in here, but also allow it to create a little bit more space because of the curvature of the roof and all of that. So I spent months working on this attic to create a second tower because I'm so convinced of the benefit of having a secluded place where I can go and think deep thoughts. Now, you're up to speed on why I want to call these attic thoughts, because this might very well be the place where Dizzle Dillman thinks of a completely, entirely new school of thought regarding training and cycling performance. Now, will that happen? Probably not, but I like the notion of having a spot where I can think about things without interruption and do deep work, as Cal Newport explains in his book. And you guys will just be along for the ride. Hopefully some of these ideas and these thoughts that I have will be helpful. I plan to talk about training. I plan to talk about theology. That's a big part of this that I want to be able to do some Bible studies on here and be able to talk about my faith a little bit more openly, but in regard to specifically what does the Bible say? And then also just training, racing, crazy ideas, all that stuff. It's all going to happen right here on Attic Thoughts. This is just the first one. To close out this video, I wanted to conclude it by reading the last paragraph of the introduction that talks about this in Deep Work by Cal Newport. When Carl Jung wanted to revolutionize the field of psychiatry, he built a retreat in the woods. Jung's Bollingen Tower became a place where he could maintain his ability to think deeply and then apply the skill to produce work of such stunning originality that it changed the world. In the pages ahead, I'll try to convince you to join me in the effort to build your own personal Bollingen Towers, hence the attic, to cultivate an ability to produce real value in an increasingly distracted world, and to recognize a truth embraced by the most productive and important personalities of generations past: a deep life is a good life. See you guys in the next one.